3, 2, 1. Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the brand new steel ship, aka the Forge, in the store if you guys are interested. The Daisen. Not the vacuum, okay? I know what you're thinking. It's not the vacuum, I promise. But what it is it's a debater. Okay, not only did it debate everybody during the like build up for the patch notes, but it debates you into thinking it's a brawler. It is not a brawler. Let me get into it. We are running Takeo Takagi with Paolo de Revel and Arthas the Cold as our inspirations. Everybody always asks what I should put if I don't have Arthas the Cold. I'd say go Cunningham or maybe William Sims or something like that. Get a little bit more accuracy or potentially health out of it. But you definitely do not want to fall into the trap of thinking this thing is a secondary brawler. Just because it has extra secondary range does not mean that you want to go full secondary build on this thing. But I'm running Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, Reaching Out XXL, and of course, Fight Fire with Fire. As our actual loadout, we're running Aiming Systems Mod 1, we're running Steering Gears Mod 2, we're running the Concealment System Mod, and we are running the Main Battery Mod 3. Let's get into the stats. We are running the Italian Unity flag, because if you squint just right, kind of looks like a Spartan helmet. We're running the camo that comes with the ship. We are running the Catapult Fighter because we're running Arthas, so in order to get the 20% damage buff while the Catapult Fighter is up, I have to run the Catapult Fighter. On top of that, I do have the engine boost, obviously, so the engine boost is pretty ridiculous, but it is short duration, so keep that in mind. But you do get 4 of them, and they reload relatively quickly as well. 53% damage, torpedo damage reduction is kind of absurd. The hit points is a little bit low, but it's a battle cruiser. It's supposed to be a little bit low. But I don't understand how they can sit here and tell me that this ship, look at the ship. Look how skinny this ship is. All right, this is narrower than a goddamn Iowa class. How the heck does this thing have a freaking 53% torque reduction? There ain't even a torpedo belt on this thing. Somebody please explain how this thing gets a 53% torque reduction. I guess that's the only good thing about it. No, it's not, but we'll get into it. Anyway, let's get back into it. Sorry, I just had to rant there. But yeah, 53% torque reduction. Almost as good as an Iowa-class battleship for no reason whatsoever. But we do get 8 410mm 50 caliber 10th year type Mod A's. The firing range with this build, 19 kilometers with a reload of 24.7 seconds, which is pretty solid. And then on top of that, if you count the fact that every 30,000 damage you get a buff to your reload, it gets pretty funny. 180 degree turn time is 30.7 seconds, so not too shabby there. HE shell maximum damage 6,500 with a 30% chance to set fire, which is actually a little lower than I would expect out of a Japanese battleship cruiser. But still, 30%. Don't be shooting HE out of this. Don't embarrass yourself. AP shell maximum damage 14,190. Secondaries, you get 127mm Type 89 Mod 3s. You get 20 of those, reaching out to 7.1 kilometers base with a 6-second reload time. HE shells that do a maximum of 2,100 damage and an 8% chance to set fires. Then you have the 140mm third year type, 16 of those, which are casemate guns, by the way, that also have a base range of 7.1 kilometers, a reload of 8 seconds, HE shell maximum damage of 2,400, and a 10% chance to set fires. So why do I say you shouldn't fall for the bait? This thing does not have the survivability to be able to get up close and brawl at tier 8 and legendary tier. If this was a tier 7 ship, it'd be a different story, but it's not. And so going in and trying to brawl with Republi, Musashis, Yamatos, Conquerors, Columbos, just all the way down to Ohio, just all of them. They will murder your face before you ever get a chance to get close. And if you think you're going to rely on the torpedoes, despite the torpedoes being in an armored like box, they get knocked out anytime somebody looks in your direction. So yeah, not an ideal scenario when you're trying to brawl. Now, that being said, if we get to the torpedoes, you do have 610 millimeter quadruple launchers. You get 16 of them, so two launchers per side, so 8 torps per side. They do a maximum damage of 20,967, which is a little bit low compared to like Shimakaze, but is what it is. Still pretty nasty torpedoes, I think we can all agree. But they're very visible at 1.7 kilometers. But they do reach out to 10 kilometers, so you got a little bit of range there. Torpedo speed, 67 knots. The problem with these torpedoes is because they're in an armored box, they have terrible torp launch angles. Usually you can get one off over the bow or over, I'd say about a third of the way from the bow, and then one off, you have to go full broadside and get yourself neutered in order to launch them. Anyway, AA, you have 25 millimeter 60 caliber Type 96 Mod 1s. You get 20 of those doing 36 damage per second, reaching out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you have the 25 millimeter Type 96 Mod 1s. You get 24 times 3, that would be 48, plus 24, it'd be 72. 72 of those doing 146 damage per second, 3.1 kilometer firing range. Don't make fun of my math, okay? 40 millimeter 60 caliber Type 5s, you get 32 of those doing 177 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. And then, of course, you have the 127 millimeter Type 89 Mod 3s. You get 20 of those doing 101 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers. So a lot of close-in AA, but it's mostly small caliber, so it's really not that great. But it'll get you a couple of planes shot down at least, right? Maneuverability, 31.5 knots top speed with this build. Remember, we are running gyrating drill bits, which slows us down a little bit. I believe it's 35 knots without gyrating drill bits, which means when you hit the hit the engine boost, you are capable of getting over 40 knots. With this build, you're not going to get there, but you're still going to be pretty speedy at around 36 knots, I believe. Turning circle on this thing is freaking horrendous, okay? It's awful. The rudder shift's not that bad at 13.6 seconds with this build, but the turning circle on this ship is freaking awful. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. 1,100 meters! All right, that is 200 meters worse than an Iowa-class battleship. You explain it. I can't. I can't. The ship does not look like it's that big, but it has the worst turning circle in the game, I think. I don't think anything is worse than it. Detectability by sea is 13.6 kilometers. Detectability by air, 11.4. Guaranteed is always 2, and 15.4 kilometer detectability while firing and smoke, just to make you feel even worse about yourself. Statistics. This will be fun. Oh, 40%? Can anybody guess why I have such a low win rate in this ship? Oh yeah, that's because I decided it was a good idea to try the brawler build, or not a brawler build, but a full secondary build for the first 4 matches, and needless to say, I was miserable. Then I swapped to an accuracy build, and suddenly the ship woke the f*** up. So yeah, I still say accuracy going to be the way to go in this ship. Armor, it's got decent armor, but it's not amazing. It's 32 millimeter bow, so you can handle everything except for Yama Musashi. They overmatch, but everybody else does not. So you get that going in your favor. You do have underwater torpedo blisters, I guess, even though it doesn't look like you do, but you definitely have a thick underwater torpedo blister. So maybe that explains its that is the ugliest profile I've ever seen, by the way. It's nice above the water, and then suddenly below the water, it's just like it's been eating too many cheeseburgers. But either way, you've got hefty torpedo protection. I guess we found out why it's got 53% torpedo protection. It's because somebody strapped a couple saddle tanks to the side of it. But anyway, let's go further. Let's get into the side armor. So casemate armor on the side, you got 32 millimeter upper side plating. You got 330 millimeter belt armor. Don't fall into the thought process that 330 millimeter side armor is going to protect you unless you're angled. Okay, if you're angled, you're fine. If you're not angled, and if it's a Yama shooting at you, good luck. Yama Musashi, they pin this 32 all day long, no matter what angle, because of their overmatching. So you're going to take a lot of damage there. And plus, this is very flat side armor. So despite it being extremely thick, considering the size of the ship, it's very flat. So much like Minnesota, Kansas, so on and so forth, Vermont, the flat armor gets pinned a lot easier than a sloped armor would. Even though up front you can see it is a little bit sloped, but in the middle of the ship you can see it's basically completely flat. Okay, you can see all the way down the side there. All right, let's get rid of that, and let's look at the Citadel. Citadel is a turtleback, actually. That was the other thing I forgot to mention. It is a slight turtleback. Of course, it's not a true turtleback because the only thing that's protecting it from bombs is nothing. You got some deck armor to get through, and then once the bombs get through the deck, it's a Citadel city. So if you're going up against anything with armor-piercing bombs, you're going to have a bad day. But that little bit of turtleback can help you up close a little bit, but I wouldn't rely on it. Trust me, you will get slapped around with this ship if you go through the bow side plating or stern side plating, or if you overmatch through the stern because they're trying to kite away because they think they're cute. Okay, so if you overmatch this thing through the stern, it's almost guaranteed Citadels. All right, so keep that in mind. But everybody else, I mean, this is going to be a pretty easy ship to damage in most situations. But if utilized properly, just like any other ship in the game, it's serviceable. Big guns. This ship is armed with high caliber main guns. This is tier 8. This is not high caliber main guns. I'm sorry. It's got 410 millimeter guns, which is decidedly average to below average at this tier. So, I mean, yes, it's bigger than American 16-inch guns, but when you're going up against 17-inch, 17.5-inch, 18-inch guns, you wouldn't call 410 millimeters big guns. I'm sorry. Fast, above average maximum movement speed. That is true. We already talked about that, and I just killed my remote once again. You'd think I would learn, but I never do. Hold that thought. I have destroyed my remote. Anyway, back to the fun. Secondary reach, above average secondary battery, but don't fall into the trap. Like I said, I've tried the secondary build. It's funny to watch all these casemates start firing, but honestly, they're not the most accurate casemates in the world. They don't reload the fastest in the world, and they struggle with setting fires a lot of the time. And they get knocked out pretty easily. So just keep that in mind. A fast battleship with powerful artillery and torpedo armament. The ship inherited a number of archaic features from the 1910s project. So that tells you everything you need to know about it right there. It's 1910s, okay, folks? It's old. Including secondary battery guns mounted in casemates, which I love casemates, don't get me wrong. When I'm building stuff in Ultimate Admiral, I love these casemates, but yeah, they're just, when it comes to brawling, this ship is not it, okay? Don't let it fool you. Go accuracy build, use the secondaries if things get up close and personal, but other than that, use your torpedoes to keep people at bay or area denial, and then sit back and just snipe people with the battlecruiser accuracy. You'll have a much better time. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Crash Zone, and we're in the Daisen, and we're running a full accuracy build. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you guys, literally the very first match after I switched to accuracy build, this is what we get. So, this is why I say the accuracy build is the way to go for these ships. The other ship I will get to as soon as I can. I've had some fun moments in it, but I still haven't had that breakout game that I like to showcase for you guys. So give me a little bit. I will try to get you a game probably tomorrow in the Carl the 14th. So keep an eye out for that. But today, it's all about the Daisen, baby. Let's roll the Daisen. Let's go use this as a vacuum, shall we? Now we're gonna push off to the right side on Crash Zone. You got to be careful with this ship. It's not a particularly large ship, which means that most of the shells that you get hit with are going to do some damage one way or the other, just due to the lack of armor. Like I said, you do have armor, but it's very flat, so angling it properly at range is difficult. Most of the time, you're just going to take penetrations through, whether it be the deck, or the upper side plating, or even the side plating, because the shells are coming in at an angle that just eats eat your ship alive. And like I said, anytime you go up against Yama or Musashi, those things are going to chew these ships apart, and there ain't much you can do about it. There's just too much 32 millimeters on this ship to really effectively brawl against a Yama or Musashi. Now, is it possible to catch them broadside? Absolutely. And these guns are still 410 millimeter Japanese battleship guns that are capable of absolutely punishing people, and are probably the, I mean, I would put them on the same category as the Iwami at the tier. If you guys know me, I love the Iwami. The Iwami has ridiculously good guns compared to, say, Izumo. Even though they're all 410 millimeters, it just seems like the Iwami's guns seem to hit a lot more accurately and consistently. Now here, Republic gets another shot out. We're going to go ahead and turn away, try to get this thing off of them a little bit. But we do end up taking one shell. Even at a decently angled hit, he still gets 2,500 damage off us, which is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, at range, trying to stop these shells from doing damage is going to be impossible. And like I said, these torpedoes, if you're relying on these torpedoes to save you up close and personal, more often than not, they're going to get knocked out by the secondaries of a ship. But we get a nice shot here on the Jaeger, taking 3 pins off of him. And we're trying to push over towards the right side and utilize a little bit of cover, but also just protect that flank, right? Because there's nobody over there. Our team's kind of yellowing into the cap here, which is not ideal this early in the game. But if we can get over on the right side, you can see their entire team has left the Bravo cap to come over and fight on this side of the map. Get another good shot out, and unfortunately, Jaeger just dancing between the raindrops there and gets away with it. But we have a Republic over here, we have the Schroeder over here, and there's a Georgia gonna come over here a little bit later. So we've got our hands full in terms of what we're up against. And then there's also an enemy Carl that goes yellowing into the Charlie cap on this map. So there's going to be a perfect showcase of what I'm talking about when it comes to the secondary or the torpedoes on this ship shown in this particular match. Now, this guy doubles back in his cruiser and kind of runs right into us. Not much I can do about that. You can say it was my fault. You can say it is fault. At the end of the day, neither of us took really any damage there, so it doesn't really matter. We get a beautiful look at the Schroeder as he reverses around the corner. We get the shot out there, and we get a decent penetration, and there's our 30k damage, which gives us a faster reload, which is always going to be beneficial. Now, as we push in, I want to keep the island to my left as best I can, because you can see the amount of firepower that's on our left. Now, this is the first match also that I've been top tier in these ships. The Daisen and the Carl, I ended up bottom tier every single match until this match. So it's just one of those things where there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Now, the first time we've run into a Shimanto, but I unfortunately don't have a chance to really do anything about it. Republic, though, is opening the angle, and look at the accuracy we're going to get out of these. We're only firing dual gun turrets, right? But they're still hitting the majority of the shots. Like, literally all 4 rounds hit the target there. 3 of them were penetrations. The other one ended up ricocheting. But that's what I'm talking about with the accuracy. This is battlecruiser accuracy at its finest, right? Like, it's everything that you love about a battleship's guns, except they are more accurate and consistent. Now, I make a mistake of getting a little bit too close and overshooting the island here, because I'm trying to get my rear guns on target. Not the best firing angles for the rear turrets at all, but we do end up getting caught here. We got the Shimanto out there on the edge. This was a perfectly placed Republic shot through the cheek that gets that citadel that we were talking about. Again, showcasing that while it does have a turtleback, you can't really rely on it if they are shooting through the bow and side plating. Now, we get double fired here. I maybe pushed that a little bit too early to get rid of that. But Shimanto, I mean, the dude is literally doing everything that you expect out of a Japanese cruiser, which is firing HE, staying as far away as humanly possible. We get the first fire against us, nothing I can do about it, and there's the torpedoes getting knocked out as expected. That is the Carl secondary shooting over the top of the island and just tearing our torpedoes apart. And you'd look at where they're at on the ship and you would think that they'd be fine. The problem is the secondaries are going to be hitting there more often than not. So anytime you try to, like, get up close and personal and maybe brawl, like, you better launch your torps early in this ship, because you're probably not going to have them by the time you actually get to launch them on an enemy. So Try to get the torpedoes off as area denial. Another beautiful salvo. Again, we're firing front guns at these guys. We're hitting 3 or 4 shots. That is the accuracy that you want out of these guns, right? Same thing with the Awami. The Awami, it has torpedoes. The torp angles aren't the greatest on the Awami, but you can see the front torp angles are pretty good on this thing. The rear torp angles are absolutely horrendous. So we get a beautiful look at the broadside of that Schroeder, and down he goes. I mean, you can't go broadside to this thing, and Georgia's about to find that out as well. We didn't even have to use Arthas there, and we finish off the enemy Schroeder. But if you go broadside, you're just going to get yeeted by this ship. This ship, if it is running a full accuracy build, is nasty. It's everything you love about the Japanese guns without any of the drawbacks of the Japanese dispersion. But you have to run the accuracy build to get it. You fall for the bait and go for a secondary build, you're going to be miserable. But look at what I do to this Georgia here. Georgia was not ready for this. We just took half the man's health in one salvo. And that's only because he decided to speed up right after he took a Citadel. If he stayed put a little bit longer, the man's probably dead right now, going back and forth going, what just happened? But he's going to try to run away at this point. We're going to aim out ahead of him. Look at the accuracy. I can't say it enough. Like, accuracy is what you want in this ship. This is disgusting sniper accuracy right now. And this is what I was looking forward to, honestly. I thought, you know, it'd be a meme. Try this secondary build. I was miserable. As soon as I put this thing on an accuracy build, suddenly I am just sniping like crazy. Like, the accuracy that this thing has shown in this match alone should be enough to convince you that accuracy is where you want. Alright, the secondaries are nice, but if you spec into only secondaries, you're probably going to be pretty miserable at Legendary tier, and tier 8 for that matter. But Georgia, over angles, comes back, and we're going to slap them around again. Only this time we only get half the shells to hit, which is, it's okay, but it could have been better. And at this point, I was thinking, okay, these guys are going to rotate back. I should be able to cut them off by going around the island. We're going to fire the front guns at him. He's literally kiting at this point. He's like, I got no hope. So I'm just going to kite her towards the back of the island, or towards the back of the map, and hope for the best. He's dodging my shells, so you can't really argue with that. We're going to get the rear guns on target as well. Aiming a little bit higher this time because we're expecting him to keep heading towards the edge of the map, and there we get a much better result. 2 penetrations, one of them unfortunately did nothing. We go ahead and use our last heal just in case things get a little bit sketchier. I know our team is absolutely dominating, but you never know, right? So here we're looking for the window shot. It's what I call it when you get these little looks through the islands. Give it a moment to get through into the window. We get the shot through, and not the best accuracy in the world, but they're at least tracking, and we do slap a superstructure a little bit. Again, 8 rounds down range. Actually, I think it was only 6 rounds down range. We hit half of the shells, but the Shimanto is not long for this world, so we're just going to try to focus down the Georgia. Speaking of which, Shimanto's gone. We've got a beautiful look. He's turning towards us. We've got Arthas up, and he gets away with it. He gets away with it. He got so lucky there. But the reload on this thing is so good, too, that you're just always reloaded, it seems like. It seems like you're always within, like, 5 seconds of being reloaded. So, I mean, right now we've got a 22-second reload with this thing fully maxed out. So, not too shabby. And then, of course, we get the Citadel to finish him off and bring us up to 182,000 damage done for our first game with accuracy build. So, Daisen, 184,000 damage, high caliber, top of the leaderboard, 2,700 base XP. Not too shabby. I still think that if you're going to go with this ship, is it worth the steal? Not really. But if you're going to go for this ship, I highly recommend an accuracy build. Do not get sucked into the secondary build. You will be miserable. But if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.